So let me start by saying, yes, perhaps what is a very potentially unpopular statement. I love lawyers. I love lawyers. I love being a lawyer. My husband is a lawyer. My sister is a lawyer. My brother-in-law is a lawyer. And we probably, all of us, share a similar story about why we became lawyers. For me and my sister Maya, you know, we are the daughters of parents who met when they were graduate students at the University of California, Berkeley in the 1960s. And they met when they were actively involved in the civil rights movement. So Maya and I joked that we grew up surrounded by a bunch of adults who spent full time marching and shouting about this thing called justice. And growing up in that environment, among the many heroes were the architects of the civil rights movement. And they, of course, were the lawyers. Thurgood Marshall, Charles Hamilton Houston, Constance Baker Motley, who understood the skill of our great profession to translate the passion from the streets to the courtrooms of our country, and to do the work that, unfortunately, must continuously be done of reminding folks of that great promise we articulated in 1776. We are all and should be treated as equals. So at a young age, I decided I wanted to be a lawyer, and in particular because I thought what was noble about it is being a voice for the voiceless. And that's why I decided to become a prosecutor. And I will tell you now, as the top cop of the biggest state in the country, one of the foundations of the work that we do in our system of justice, in our system of democracy, I think is highlighted in the way that I charge a crime. The document does not read the victim versus the defendant. It reads the people versus the defendant. Because our system of justice and democracy has rightly said, a harm against any one of us is a harm against all of us. A crime against any one of us is a crime against all of us. And so, Brad, to your point, one day I'm watching television, the evening news, and I saw a sight that emotionally struck me, which was, there was a bus in California that was arriving in a town in California. And in that bus it was full of children and women. And those children and women had fled, as has been discussed, 3 of the top 5 murder countries in the world. Their parents and those vulnerable people put them on a path to travel through Mexico, to come to the place that has said to the world, we will receive you when you are in need of refuge. And I saw then, with this bus, a group of people surrounding that bus, and they were chanting and they were shouting at the people inside this bus, go back to where you came from. It was so troubling for so many obvious reasons. And when we put that on top of another layer, which Senator Kaine discussed, which is that in, again, the nature of who we are as a country, we passed a law presupposing that children may enter our country and come to us seeking refuge. And we then created a law anticipating this might happen and outlining a process by which we would afford them an ability to tell their story so we could determine if they needed protection and safety. And then you had people infused by ideology and ignorance who were suggesting that law should be undone and we should expedite these hearings. We knew that we had a challenge, those of us in this great and noble profession, which is to ensure that those children had a voice and that they had due process. And I will tell you, as a former courtroom prosecutor, I personally, among many crimes, prosecuted child sexual assault cases. I will tell you that I heard stories from my friends in law enforcement about children who are arriving through Mexico into the United States, these unaccompanied minors, and some of the young girls who are arriving in their first trimester of pregnancy because of what happened during that passage through Mexico. And I heard many other stories. Well, I will tell you, having personally prosecuted cases where children have been abused or neglected, the only way they will be adequately able to tell their story is if they're talking with someone they trust. And if they have the time to be able to tell their story in an environment where they feel safe. And the idea that we would expedite and fast-track these cases without providing them with an attorney who could establish that relationship of trust, and without the time to actually tell their story, was so offensive to our fundamental notions of justice. And I was talking to Tim Geithner, though, and so I'm going to bring this to a close on an upbeat. You know, there's been a lot of discussion in our country about bullying. And one of the underlying issues there is that the bully will choose as his victim the person that he believes is weak, that has no backup, that doesn't come with people. But when I look around this room and I know the firepower that is in this room, I am so excited and so optimistic about the future of these children and all those yet to come who will deserve and receive our attention. Because the people in this room make very clear those children are not voiceless, they are not small, they come with people who care about them and are prepared to put whatever is necessary into ensuring they have a strong voice. So I thank you all for the work you do, and Kind, I thank you for the work you do. Brad.